Ledley was one of the best centre-halves I've ever played with, and I think lots of people will tell you that. I grew up with Led. We were in the same youth team at Tottenham. I went all around the houses and came back, and Ledley was still in the same position I left him. He stayed at Tottenham his whole life. Finally, I got it back and made it in the first team, and that was special to me because me and Led had sort of from under 14 all the way up to 19. He got in the first team, and I had to go around the houses and make it back there. But in the old ball court, everyone knows it at White Hart Lane. It's a little five-a-side pitch next to White Hart Lane. That was where we used to go on a Tuesday, Thursday night. And Ledley was by far the best player in there every single day. Just honestly, like the most technically gifted, like big centre half you probably ever see.
How do you play each of the roles? So Jermain, how do you play with a partner like Crouchy?
I can't remember me and Crouchy ever sitting down and be like, right, I'm going to do this or you're going to do that. I think it's just an understanding. And what helps, obviously, when you play together for a long time, and like you said, when you play together from England youth and you go to the 21s and actually play for England at senior level, and then at club level, like 2 or 3 different clubs, then I think just naturally, me watching his game, him watching him, like there's times where the ball will go long and I think he's not going to head this, he's just going to bring it down and do his stuff, and then, or times I'll just gamble. I remember we played against Man City at home, 2 games, we played against Man United at home, I scored after about 40 seconds, and then what happened was the ball went long, because we could play, but we had that other option. The ball went long, and then Crouchy, and I sort of went to go to the near post, and I just stood still, and Rio covered the near post, and Crouchy, a lot of maybe forwards would have sort of just gone off my first movement, but he headed it down to me, and I just overhead kick, scored. Jumped me from one long ball, and then another one at City. Do you remember the game at City, at night game? I think we won 3-1. Another one, we flicked it on, I've just gambled, got in behind and flicked it outside of my foot. So it's just understanding. Yeah, and I think good players sort of understand where it's going to be. For that instance, whatever. A lot of the time, if a ball was coming in long to me and you could see that I had time, I'd want Jay round the front of me. Yeah, you know what I mean. So I'd bring it down and I'd lay it off to him and he'd get a shot off. So I'd always be sort of the ball would always come into me, and then I would always just try and get a shot for Jay. Do you know what I mean? Or myself if I could. Yeah. But and obviously if I'm fighting, he's got the presence of mind. So if I'm fighting, and the ball's in the air, that I'm not going to be able to bring it. I'm going to be flicked. So he needs to get in behind. It's like this. It's very simple, but effective. And there's so many players that don't understand. I probably should say a public apology to Jonathan Woodgate, because there is a picture around. That many of you would have seen, listeners. I think Dave, by his look, has probably seen it. If you Google myself and Jonathan Woodgate, there is a picture that comes out. And I'll be honest with you, I owe him an apology because I had a few drinks and I was a little bit worse for wear, and he was not drinking. He was injured and he didn't like to be out injured.
Wow, this is the second public apology of this episode alone.
Well, if you do something wrong, Chris, I think you should hold your hand up.
Back apologetic.
Well, yeah.
As a podcast. That's the hashtag, isn't it?
We seem to be back apologising.
Woodgate's injured. You've persuaded him.
Do you want to have a look at it before I go on?
I mean, it's classic you. I've seen you in this pose a number of times. So
this is my problem, is that obviously I've got my one button, I think, I've got one button done up and I'm fully going for it, obviously dancing, having a great time. But Woody, I made him get up because he was being boring. And I said, come on, just get up and have a dance. We're having fun. And he got up for that one moment. And that one moment was the only moment that he was dancing. And he looks worse than me, far worse.
Do you know who you'd beaten that day?
I don't remember the game.
Celebrating like that.
Well, it's not, it's not big and it's not clever, but we won at least.
But it's true. You've made Woodgate look like he's absolutely
horrific.
The truth is, in that picture,
of that photo is Woodgate looks worse than me, right? And I look bad, and he looks horrific. And he went to me, killed me there, mate. I wasn't even drinking. I looked like that. And I do owe him an apology for that. He wasn't drinking. I was.
It's a great photo.
But anyway, Harry pulled us on the Monday and he was like, this is, you boys, it's an absolute, it's a joke. There is actually another picture from that night. There it is, Dave. He's got it.
Well, hang on. What do you Google for the picture?
Well, it came up straight away. It's the same evening. I think I'm in the same shirt.
Oh, it's so good. It's always the pictures of people leaving the nightclubs that are...
Well, for some reason, I came out. I thought no one could see us. I thought we'd gone round the corner. I thought it'd be funny to poke my head out the sunroof.
Oh, is that what it is?
That made the back of the mail, that one.
Yeah, look at this. Abby Clancy's footballer boyfriend, Peter Crouch, revives his robot dance as they party until 3:30 a.m.
Wasn't
Always
robot.
a late one.
I wasn't roboting. I didn't robot.
They're always going to say that though for clicks, aren't they?
I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm proud of that because, I'm a footballer at the time. But I didn't know anyone was taking photos of it. Certainly not in the nightclub, and certainly not when I got in the car. I thought it just, I thought the lads would have a laugh because they were in the car behind, and I thought if I get out the sunroof, I could wave to them.
This has happened after a recent interview with Harry Redknapp, who has said, I've told them I don't want to see them in nightclubs or pubs. I don't think there's any need for it. These boys are highly paid athletes. I've said, go and have a glass of wine with the wife or partner in a nice restaurant on a Saturday night after the game. That's not a problem. But I've told them I don't want to see them rolling out of nightclubs at 3 a.m. And there's you out the sunroof.
Exactly right. That was me out the sunroof. But in all honesty, that is what we did. So he said that and we did that. We were with the girls. We went for a meal. And that's how we went home.
Yeah, it's true. But you sound like a politician in COVID, don't you?
No,
listen,
I'm not going to lie.
It was a work event.
I may have had a few too many wines.
I was out the sunroof. But anyway, what I was saying is Jonathan Woodgate didn't drink that night, and he deserves better. Go easy on him for that one.
The one that I'm looking over my shoulder now is obviously Harry, and he's got a great chance of doing it.
Yeah. Shall we dig down on this a little bit? Because it's fascinating, right? So, Premier League scorers list, there's Shearer at 260. Right, correct me if any of this isn't right, Alan, or you want to challenge it. Rooney was at 208. You're right, Aguero, 184 goals. Kane, currently, 178 goals from 275 appearances. So here's the breakdown that our analyst has managed to
I have to say, these stats are incredible. What Dave's done here. They're amazing.
So this is just to give you an idea, side to side, like as a snapshot at that amount of games. So at Kane's current scoring rate, he would have to play another 128 games or about 4.5 seasons. So first question is, do you think he's got that in him?
Yeah, I do. I mean, you'd never know with injuries. I know he's had niggling injuries with his ankles, hasn't he? He's never had a serious injury. In touch wood, he doesn't. If you go through your career without having one serious injury, I think you've been fortunate. Particularly the number of games he plays, the pace that he plays at, how dynamic he is. I mean, I had 3 serious injuries, kept me out for about 3 years. It does, without a shadow of a doubt, it does get harder as you get older. He's 29 this summer, isn't he? So,
so he'd be playing until he's 33 at the current rate that it's all happening to have to match your record.
Yeah, he's got a great opportunity. I think he should sign for PSG or Real Madrid or something like that.
That's what he needs to do. 100%. I was thinking, just touching on that though, Al. You had what, 2 serious knee injuries? Like
3. I had 2 serious knee injuries, and my ankle had dislodged and broken, dislocated, and chipped my bone in my ankle, which kept me out for 7 months as well. So 2 knees for 7 months each year. It's
so far ahead of. I think there's only one other player in the 200 club, isn't there? I'll be honest with you. I got in the 100 club. I was over the moon. It's something that I really wanted to achieve personally. So to get in the 200 club and then obliterate that, the serious knee injuries you had, that is unbelievable.
How do you view the 100 club, Alan? Is it like a billionaire looking at a millionaire sort of thing?
Actually, that's a great way of putting it. I never thought of that. That's how I'm gonna look at it from now on. I love that.
I'm at Tottenham, right? So I'm at Tottenham and I'm thinking, I'm trying to break into the first team. I've got so many players ahead of me at the time. But that's when I sort of saw myself. And then all of a sudden they say, right, bang, get in non-league football. So I've gone from playing reserve games with the odd game. Ginola was injured. He was back down there. Les Ferdinand, Rule Fox. Sol Campbell might have been, Chris Armstrong getting fit. I'd be training with these players. Then all of a sudden, bang, you're going to a non-league club and you're playing Carshalton, Sutton, teams like this. I'll be honest, I didn't want to go. I was kicking and screaming. I wasn't happy about it.
So when you say you didn't want to go, who did you represent that to? Do you represent that to the club?
No, I told David Pleat. David Pleat was the director of football at the time. And he said to me, I think they were signing a player called Dave McEwen, always remember it, and he was coming into Tottenham, and the condition of that was that they got a young player up and coming that would play for them for a few months, and I was that player basically. So it was a condition of the signing.
That's crazy though, because as much as you're playing for Tottenham and you're there to play as part of a team and for the betterment of the club, it's almost, and this isn't the way to look at it, but it sounds like it was someone else's contract. It was someone else's terms that were dictating what your future could potentially be. And that's quite unfair on you.
Yeah. But you're exactly right, Chris. Like, it's a condition of, like, basically you're seen as a pawn in a transfer signing. Like, you are a commodity. You are being traded like a piece of meat, really. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, of course, you know, we're playing football and we're very lucky to do so. But, you know, if someone tells you you're doing that. It's like that's it. There's no real loyalty. Like, players obviously get a bad rap sometimes for, you know, asking for this and that. But on the flip side of that, on the negative side of that, like, there's lots that the clubs do sometimes that you that it doesn't sit right, you know. Like, and not just mine, because actually I'm getting to the point where it actually worked out really well for me. You know, it was beneficial, but there are, you know, players and things you don't see, like even the youth team, the entire youth team. We had 25 players, you know, year above me and my year. Probably 2 or 3 had a living out the game, but then the rest of them are just sort of cast aside. And I think it's different now, but that is how it was.
So David Pleat sat you down and said that, you know, you're going to be doing this as part of an exchange, and that obviously plays in your mind, but does he give you any assurances that because you're doing that, you're then more likely to come back, or there's more of a guarantee that you'll come back because you're almost being used as a blood sacrifice?
But that is exactly like this. This is why it annoyed me, because I knew that I was a make weight in the deal. I didn't, and he obviously passed it off as it being beneficial to me. Obviously, I went there kicking and screaming. I always remember coming out and I was walking with David Pleat, and David Pleat shouting to Les Ferdinand, who was walking out, and saying, Les, like, what do you reckon? I'm sending it, like, it's be beneficial for him, wouldn't own it. And he said, to be fair to Les, he was like, no, I think
that's mad.
He went, no, I think he's better than that. I think, and I was like, I always like remember Les sort of sticking up for me because he knew I wasn't happy about it. And then Les was like, nah, he's better than that. I think you can get him a higher standard, this and that. And then he just walked off. I was like, oh, what a ledge. And then,
but I think this goes without saying, by the way, the Dulwich Hamlet thing, it's obviously worked out well for you eventually. But I'm really interested in at that point as a 17-year-old, because there'll be loads of 17-year-olds or people around that age listening to this right now. Like, that could have killed your career.
Yeah, but I think it's the way you look at it. So I could have gone there and gone, I'm better than this, and sort of sulked a bit and gone and made it apparent that I thought I was better than that. And then I would have got nailed, number one, by the players in the dressing room, because they're playing for a different thing. They're playing for their livelihoods. You know, what they earn is, you know, paying their mortgages. And if you're not pulling your weight, you've become a prima donna from a big club, you're going to get told in no uncertain terms pretty quickly. So I went down there, and obviously once I got over it, originally I was going, I want to stay here, I want to fight for my place, I want to do it here. When I went down there, I was like, well, I can't be sulking now. Like you're saying, that my mindset was I need to excel. And it was so beneficial to me, because I went there, I got kicked. I was playing in games that you had to win. You know, I'm playing in reserve games and youth team games. People are saying, oh, it's a North London derby. It's not. It's made up. It's kids football. You know, there, you got to win. 3 points matters. And it gave me that kind of, instead of playing to develop as a player, I was playing to win matches. And that was something that really, really helped me early on in my career. I realised that, you know, it's all about winning.
So, 17-year-old Peter Crouch turns up Dulwich Hamlets. Are you wearing the Tottenham Hotspur trackie? Like, it's a tricky one for you, isn't it? Because
I trained at Tottenham Monday to Friday. So I'm still training at Tottenham. And then I go on a Saturday. My dad would drive me to Dulwich, and we played a game. So I wasn't doing any training with the Dulwich boys.
But hang on. So you're going. I don't get that. I don't get this at all. So you're your loan move is to be still training with Tottenham, right? But playing for...
Yeah, because they're part-time. They're training on maybe Tuesday or Thursday night.
Would you go down to those training sessions?
No, I'd just train like with Tottenham.
It sounds so like disjoint and unstrategized in a sense. They're sending this young striker to Dulwich, but you're basically playing with these lads for 90 minutes a week.
Yeah.
Do they give you shit?
No, they were all actually really good with me.
Did you feel disconnected from Spurs?
You'd speak to, I'd speak to Chris Hughton a lot. He was good. He was like the reserve team manager at the time. David Pleat was like a deal maker, if you know what I mean. He didn't have much to do with me after that. But Chris Hughton was very good. He used to give me a call. My youth team manager, Bob Arbor and Des Bolpin, like they would call me and ask me how I was doing. And they'd always send someone to watch the matches and stuff. So yeah, I didn't feel complete disconnection. But as a sort of young player trying to make his way in the game, it's like it's just sort of what I had to do at that time.
So let's talk money, right? 17 years old, you're on sort of Tottenham money at that point, even though it was less. I always remember you saying that.
So I'd signed a professional contract by then.
Yeah. So do Dulwich then take over the payments?
No. I was still paid by Tottenham. I mean, I was on 45 quid a week when I signed my apprenticeship for 2 years, and then I signed my first professional contract was 300. So I thought I've hit the big time here. You know,
balling.
I was balling then. I always remember I went to Lakeside when I signed my first contract. Right, went to Lakeside and me and Ledley had just signed our pro contracts. But we went with a couple of lads who hadn't, and then we're just gonna nip in here, lads. And they were like, "We'll wait outside." And I went, "Well, don't worry, we signed professional contracts, haven't we? We're into H. Samuel." Absolutely balling, right? Me and Ledley went into H. Samuel and I bought a gold bracelet.
Wow.
I bought this gold bracelet, right? And I put it on and I went, and Led had one on as well. And I went, fuck. Lads were like, a couple of the boys were like, wow. Smashed it, lads.
We've made it.
Made it.
H. Samuel.
H. Samuel. Honestly, I got home. When I got home, my dad went, what the fuck is that on your wrist? And I went, but it'd already gone like a bit sort of brown. And he went, get that off and never wear that again. And I went, yeah, you're right. And I took it off and never wore it again. I put it in a drawer. I kept it in its like little case. And I put it next to my bed. And every now and then I looked at it and went, yeah.
That's money, that
You're
is.
doing well there, son. But then I just put it back in his case just in case my dad battered me. Pav, you could see it, Pavlyuchenko, right? You could see in his eyes, he didn't want me to play. And he didn't want, he was ruthless. He was like, I could literally, I passed it and he wouldn't like even say hello because he was that angry that I was playing ahead of him, you know?
You get that?
I could see it.
Yeah, you get that. I'm telling you,
that's mad. I find that mad.
Yeah. But in a way, it's like you don't like it, but you understand it, sort of thing.
Yeah, I get it. We're all like that, aren't we? We're all like that.
Obviously, you want to play, and you need that bit of value.
Because I think strikers is my perception of it from the outside is the most arrogant of all the positions on a football pitch.
Of course.
Yeah.
But I'd agree with that.
Had
this. Was it a bond that was just on the pitch, or was part the special? Yeah, sort of magic of this formed outside as well.
Let's be honest about it. Every now and then, Jermain would put me wide when he could put me in. So I'd have to cross it back to him. Let's be honest about it. There's still, I love him to pieces, but he's a goal scoring machine, you know.
I was like, Crouchy, sorry, mate, that bad ball and that.
And I said, Jay, when you scored the 5 at Wigan, I said, it was a couple I thought he could have squared. And I said, Jay, you scored the 5th one, right? And I said, you got 4. I said, Jay, come on, I'm near him. Come on.
The 5th one's funny. If you watch the when I scored the 5th, watch Crouchy. So I'll go through on goal. It's funny. So I'll go through on goal. I scored past Kirkland and that. And Crouchy is running, obviously, he's running, and his arms are like this. And his arms are like that. What's the celebration? It's the funniest thing. When you actually sit, it's funny, man.
Jay, so I'm going over to him. I'm going, Jay, you've got 4. Like, come on. And he's, It's in his DNA. It's in his DNA.
Shearer and Andy Cole got 5. I need to get 5.
If there'd been a penalty, you would have taken that. You wouldn't have donated a 6th.
No, he would have taken it.
I'll give it to him. I've scored 5. I know he scored 6, do I?
Well, don't you want to break the record?
That's a lie.
Then you got the stat.
That's the biggest lie I've ever
6 goals in a Premier League game, only player of all time.
Do you get 2 match balls? What happens there?
Yeah, 2 match balls, get the lot.
Yeah. No one's done 6.
You get 2 match balls if you do 2 match
I imagine so, right?
No one's done. I've never seen 6 in a Premier League game. It's not been done,
Harlem would do that.
Message from Layla. I know nothing about football, but find your pod weirdly refreshing when listening to you chatting in the pub. I've now passed the pod to my dad and brothers who are both Spurs season ticket holders and my husband who supports Arsenal. I've also passed the pod on to my girlfriends who have followed me by passing it on to the football lovers in their lives. Fantastic.
Yeah, I like this. I always like this when, when people who don't like football like listening.
Also, I love that family dynamic there. So dad and brother of Layla supports Spurs, but her fella supports Arsenal.
Yeah,
imagine the shit he must get.
Oh, a bit of Daughter-housery there.
It is
bringing
Daughter-housery.
an Arsenal fan into the equation.
Crouchy, would you allow that?
Yeah, I don't. It all depends, really. Yeah, like we've got a United fan just come into the household, and yeah, I quite like the banter. It's quite good, Like I have a bet with him every year about Ronaldo and Salah. We had that this year. We had United and Liverpool last year, which he beat me on.
That is an interesting dilemma. I reckon there'll be lots of people listening who have a family member, whether it's your daughter or your son or your sister or your brother, a family member, that has suddenly started dating someone that supports a rival team to the rest of your family.
Yeah.
And it's a tricky one, isn't it?
How did you go about things? Like, is it okay? I mean, if your daughter...
well, let's talk about you. What about your daughter?
No, I'll ask first. If you brought home a Luton fan, you'd be happy with that, or?
I dread the idea of that.
Do you?
Yeah, because you also know that the Luton fan boyfriend will be getting a bit of a kick out of the fact, however much shit I would give them, think about it, they ultimately
win.
So I ask you the same question. It's a real challenging one, isn't it? Like, as a father-in-law, you're better, I think, to not give out too much shit. Because ultimately they have the last laugh.
The trump card.
If they really wanted to. They've got that in the back pocket, and that would be the last thing I would ever want to hear.
Oh my God. But I think if that card was played, things are going to end badly. From the outside, it was like I lost my girlfriend. You know what I mean? And like I saw him coming in. Like I was told to leave really from Spurs. Like they got a good bid from Stoke, and I had to get off. And then all of a sudden, I'm seeing Adebayor flirting with Jay and Rafael.
Crouchy's sitting there fuming.
I'm back in the gym trying to sculpt and win my way back. What have I done, How did you find him?
And he was obviously a top player in that, but do you know what? It was good in change rooms. Funny guy.
Oh, he's funny as well. Fucking, that was funny. That was my fucking role.
Jermain, what'd you say? He was funnier or funny?
Nah, he was who was
the funniest though?
Nah, Crouchy was funny.
Thanks,
Crouchy and Woody.
Okay.
Crouchy, Jonathan Woodgate, Bentley. But Addy was good.
Yeah.
Good player.
Every situation that I've had to go into the manager's office, I've built up in my head to the point where, and I think this is a good advice for anyone who thinks that they can't go into the boss's office at work, or they can't ask for a pay rise, or they can't do this, they can't do that. I think, having been in that situation where I think football managers are probably nastier than a lot of bosses, I would say, just do it. I think it's never as bad as you think it's going to be.
Was Harry's office the best? In my mind, it's the best.
The thing is with Harry is like, he can be really cutting. Like, there's a big joke that, me and him are like, father and son. And like, he signed me everywhere, but he also sold me at places. But he was brilliant with me, and he was such a huge influence on my career. But it's still a difficult place to go if you've got something that he doesn't want to hear, because he can rip people to shreds. Like he's so quick with, you know, his comments and cutting he can be. I've seen him, if he doesn't like you, you know about it. And I do like that about him. But it's still a daunting office to go into. But I think if you're a manager, you need to make your office a daunting place to go.
Right, so we've got Sean Derry, we've got Gerrard, we've got Lee Hendry. Who's next?
I'm going for Luka Modric, Dave. It's pretty self-explanatory, but also, we all know he's won the Ballon d'Or, for God's sake. I mean, what a player. I don't even have to speak about his, you know, technical ability, but also what an amazing person. Like him, Luka, Crouchy, the Croatian mafia. Absolutely loved them. Like, honestly, like we just loved them as people. Like they I don't know, they were quite English in many ways. Just great in the dressing room. And Luka was the same. I saw him at the Champions League final, and he was just the same person, you know. And he's gone on to win everything. And
it's hard not to love him.
Have you seen the clip of after, I think it was the Champions League semi from last season, where he's going celebrating with everyone in the dressing room, and he spends, he goes around the whole dressing room, all the players, and then he spends time with like the staff in the background, like the coaches. I think it's those types of things as a fan that I'm like, he's a great person. Yeah,
that's exactly right, Dave. Like you just nailed it. Like you can see it a mile off. Everyone loves him. I remember being injured once and being on the sideline, Luke and Harry saying like, look at Modric, like, and they just watch it. Like he just loved watching him. It was. I don't think I ever saw him give the ball away in training. It was just. I'm not even joking. Like we'd play small-sided like boxes, you know, where you just can't get out of situations, and he would manage to wriggle out of these situations and keep the ball. It was just beautiful to watch. He used to just run games, you know, like we just play it to him. Like I told the story before about Wilson Palacios. It was like, you know, Wilson, go and hunt the ball, win it back. That's what Harry used to say to him. Win it back. I don't care if Luka Modric is there.
Give it to Modric.
Like, I'm talking a centimetre away. You give it to him, and that made Wilson a better player because he knew his role, and then Modric's role was to dictate the game. So for me personally, he wouldn't give me loads of assists, but he would just run the game, and we'd be more in control of every single game because Luke was there.
From Palacios to Casemiro, Real Madrid, similar role: win the ball back, give it to Modric or Kroos. Why has Luka Modric had such a long career at the top level? After the three Champions League trophies, I'm thinking that's it, and now he's just won it again. Why?
Because he doesn't rely on any other attribute other than, you know, his brain and his technique. Like lots of players can blow out when they've got all this pace, this strength, this every single thing. Like even when he was a 19-year-old player, he was never going to burst past people. He was always a conductor of the orchestra. He never really, you know, he was never going down the wing, or, you know, he never, all his attributes are going to be with him till, you know, he's 50, 60 years old. He could play, you know, in the senior league, and, you know, he's still going to be Luka Modric, who dictates the whole game. Anyone who's played with Nico Crouchy will tell you how good he was. And Modric the same. Sure, Luka, you know, he was a good, like, solid defender, but Luka's relationship with Luka was amazing. They were so tight. We got to the stage where we'd all have our own rooms, and they would always room together, always. You know, like that didn't happen anymore. But they would still,
even when you were on your own.
Yeah, we'd all have our own rooms now. Like that went out in the sort of.
That's a funny one, isn't it?
Yeah, but even if they had a double bed, they'd still be in it together.
Yeah, but why? Like, I know that's lovely. Obviously, it's great that they're so tight like that. But that's a funny one to keep going when all your other teammates are like, you can have your own room.
Yeah,
and they're like, no, we'll stay together.
No, they didn't want to. They didn't want to. They were so tight. But I loved that about them. Like they all sort of like knocked about together. But everyone I've met, like Bilic, the same, Robert Prozanecki, like all the Croatian players that I played with, like they all had this sense of sort of togetherness that I quite liked, and I always got on great with them.
It's amazing. It's like an and deck, isn't it? You sort of need both of them together. It's sort of, you imagine them still sharing a room, don't you? You can't imagine them in separate.
Rafael van der Vaart, Chris. Me and him just struck up an amazing relationship at Tottenham. The minute he came in, the first training session we connected, we were up front together, and like everything I was doing, he was around, he was on my wavelength. We just had an amazing understanding, and I'm not saying it's because I just think he was such an intelligent footballer. He was just knew where to be. He was just good on the ball. He knew when to go wide. He knew when to get around me. He knew if something was coming in, something might drop. He could score goals. He would create. We just got on great, and we got on great off the field as well.
I went back to the 2010-11 Premier League season because that's the type of fun that I get up to. Crouchy, you assisted Rafael van der Vaart 5 times in the Premier League that season. No assister to goal scorer combination managed more goals
in that season.
With 5.
With 5, it's quite it's a more rare thing than you think.
These are the numbers we were talking in my day.
A goal,
Chris,
another striker.
Chris, these are the numbers we were talking in my day. Electric.
No, but
I'm sorry, man. I don't want to. It's just I know a lot of these stats are good and a lot of these stats, but it's like, what do you mean? So Crouchy assisted 5 times,
yes,
and that was a record.
That was the highest that season. He assisted Rafael van der Vaart 5 times, and it's that combination of Crouchy to Rafael van der Vaart. The same season, I think they had a Theo Walcott to Van Persie type combination. I think we've been broken a bit from that statistical point from Kane and Son.
Yeah,
that's kind of ruined our minds in that sense, because those two.
What was theirs for a season?
So they broke the Shearer Sutton record of 13, literally 2 years ago. So they were 14.
Pissed on that parade, didn't they?
But at the same time, that's like a real rarity. So 5 is big.
We got a load in the Champions League. That's not in those stats. That's what that was. We got over 13, but it was all in the Champions League.
What about the other way around? How much did he help Crouchy?
Not a single goal in the Premier League.
See?
But that surprised me. But there was definitely...
you were a better friend.
There was some in the Champions League, I think. I remember him setting me up a few times in the Champions League. Fuck your stats, Dave, anyway.
The stats, I think your stats sometimes don't match up with the memories.
I'm breaking the memories.
I really enjoyed playing with him. Let's put it that way. And it was a match made in heaven.
What an elite sportsman that he can go from that, playing football at the highest level, to going and playing darts, as he did.
That was Rafa.
Did he ever go play darts at the training ground?
No, I'd never seen him play darts.
Never saw it.
Didn't.
What's your experiences of him? And we've talked about him a few times.
Well, we both played in that breakthrough season of his, like, where he was just off the scale. Like, he was a left back and he was a little bit of lack of confidence, and then
lack of confidence.
Watched him.
Weren't really going to play. Benoit Skotu went to African Nations, didn't he? Gareth there, Gareth play him, and then he started getting the ball, kicking it past people and just running.
It's like a party trick,
about, like, just literally just knocking it past people and running, and you're like, wow, I've never seen anything like this before. Like, I've never seen anything like that before. Like, no skills, just like, and then you think, like, the modern day game, even back then, you think, to do that to top centre halves where everyone's fitting quick, like, do you know what I mean? Everyone's athletes. But you're doing this to Premier League defenders and in the Champions League where you're just knocking it past people and you're just running past them. It's like, it's unbelievable.
Did he always have that pace and that power, or was that something that season it
He always
clicked?
had it, didn't he? Because remember at Southampton, I remember around about the time, there was a lot of noise about him, like scoring free kicks in a champ, and then, but I think when he obviously a big move to Tottenham, a young boy, and then obviously like confidence, weren't playing. But then it was just, when you look now, you think all he needed was that chance, someone just to just give him a run of games, get him up to speed and stuff like that, and then mate, it was just unbelievable.
It looks like he's just totally focused on Wales, essentially.
Yeah. For the last,
obviously, how is your golf game, by the way? Do you
I haven't played for a while.
I'm
do
not you ever play with Crouchy?
No,
Do you play golf now?
Remember England, a couple of times I play. And then lads would just get pissed off. And like Michael, I remember I played with JJ and Michael, and then I was just like messing about.
But I get the impression you've got to be fucking good at golf to play like with decent players. Like
the more you play, you got to play all the time. Golf, you have to keep playing. Remember Coley, Joey Cole got lessons.
Oh, I love it. No,
I thought I was better than Coley though, and he was getting lessons. Sorry, Joey, man. Coley was getting lessons, right? And I remember his head used to go. That's what like that. Because if you're getting lessons, you're telling people, you have to be on it. So if you start shanking balls, the lads like that.
And then they start blaming too much technique.
He's getting his drivers out and he's and you can see, because the lads know he's getting lessons and he's getting frustrated and stuff like that. And I'm like, Coley, what? I'm not getting lessons. And I'm just like, mate, it was funny in that. But then with me, I'd hit a couple good balls. I'm like, oh, I can play. And then shank a couple and that's it. My head's gone now.
It's a tough sport. When you're good at something as well, you think, I'll be good at that. Then you're not. It's so frustrating.
And it's hard to, it's
so
competitive, isn't it?
Have you ran the viewfinder-vape idea past Gareth Bale?
He's not a vapor. He doesn't even drink. He doesn't have a beer.
But he don't.
So
think
I don't think he'd be vaping. I think he'd be on board for the range finding aspect.
That's what I meant. The range finder. That's the one I meant.
Not the vape aspect. I know this is going to go massive. You know it's going to go. It's a great idea. I saw his transition from sort of boy to man, and I watched him go from a left back struggling to get in the team, potentially going to Nottingham Forest, to then become one of the world's greatest players. And
you know that pace he had and that sort of extra gear that he could get into, and obviously famously like going around the outside the way he did. Was there a moment on the training ground that you saw that and just suddenly something came together? Because you were seeing him every day.
Yeah, there was.
We saw this progress a lot more gradual than you would have. But was there a moment? Or?
There was a couple of things, like Chris. There was like in training, like he was the best player in training every day, and it was like weird. Like, and he'd come to games and he'd be a bit nervy, and he was playing left back. And I always say about it's like playing Cristiano Ronaldo right back. It's like he had no real defensive qualities. But then as soon as he got moved further forward, that was the change, and the confidence grew, and he's quite shy as a lad, you know. So when his confidence grew, then he came out, and then the real Gareth could come out. And then obviously watching him destroy Maicon home and away, he scored a hat-trick in the San Siro, and then he went back to White Hart Lane and absolutely destroyed one of the best right-backs that we've ever seen. And and then it just kept going. From then on, it just kept every single week. You'd see a new improvement. It was like, right, give Gareth the ball and just let him do his thing. And watching it sort of happen. And then even after I left, he went from like that left wing position to like a free role, like in behind the front, like a false nine kind of. And he went from that to like 20, 25 goals and just smashing it. And then obviously he's moved to Real Madrid, and then the rest is history. But it was nice to be a part of that journey. And he's, even now, I mean, he's still the same guy. And he gets a lot of stick because he's not in the press, or he's not, he doesn't stick up for himself much in the press, but he's just a nice lad. He's not, I think he's had a lot of sort of grief from Real Madrid fans. And, you know, when he thought he sort of cared about Wales more than Real Madrid. But if anyone won the amount of things he's won at Real Madrid, you know, he deserves to be respected.